Gig Gab, episode 473 for Monday, March 17th. Act Happy Day, and maybe some other days, 2025. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians here, as usual, in Durham, New Hampshire. I'm Dave Hamilton, and my guest co-host today is someone we all know and love, none other than the drummer from Pork Tornadoes, Mike Schulte. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Good to be back and good to follow the heels of the reuniting episode that you finally put in that we've all been waiting for. It was so great to finally hear you guys back on the microphone, man.
Yeah, it was. So this will have been. There will be a week in between with the folks from Dark Matter, the Dark Matter IEMs, but and they have a promo code that we did not mention because they're like, as soon as we finished, they're like, how about if you use promo code GigGab15 to give people 15% off of the Dark Matter in-ears? I'm like, why couldn't we have said that during the show? But yes, it was outstanding to have Paul back on the show. I loved that episode.
I think I'm assuming you've gotten great feedback. It's just you guys,
yes.
It's been a year and you left it like you hadn't left. It just, you had the chemistry going. And I do want to say, Paul did mention me on the episode about this particular comment that I had made on CBC. There was, for anybody that didn't know, there was this guy that went in the CBC, the spot where we all talk weird things.
Cover band Central on Facebook.
Yep. He said, anytime I do a gig, I go through this checklist and I do this and I add the Facebook event and I make the promo and I add the photo and then everyone shares it. And which I totally agree on. It was a great little checklist. But I commented, but the venue didn't do the promo, because that is what a lot of those old boomer musicians like to say. And I just want to say that in no way, shape, or form has to do with a guy like Paul, because a guy like Paul, yes, of course, when the band and the venue can collaborate together, it is the greatest thing in the world. But where my point is that don't rely on the venue. No. If the venue doesn't do it, you're still fine because your band draws crowds and you know how to advertise and you know how to do things. But those people that get caught up on the venue didn't promo my show. It's like, those are the people that don't have any fans, that don't know how to use Facebook, that don't know how to draw crowds, that need the venue to promo. Paul doesn't need the venue to promo. Good bands out there don't need the venue. Of course we want them to, but
bands that are good at marketing themselves, whether the band is good, there's many things that a band can be good at. Playing music is one of them. Performing is one of them. Promoting themselves is one of them. Just because a band is good at one of the things that's not promotion doesn't mean they're good at promotion. And conversely, just because they're good at promotion doesn't mean they're good at any of the other things. And I will tell you, the bands that are good at promotion are the ones that promote themselves the best. That should be self-evident.
Of course.
But it's not always. No.
Yeah, the moral of the story is just whether they promote it or not, who cares? Just rely on yourselves. That is what I've always preached over there. So, Paul, that had nothing to do with you, man.
That's right. No, obviously. I think he knew that. Yeah. He knows. Yeah. No, it was great having Paul on. I loved it. He's booking a lot of gigs now. So I'm hoping that means, we can have him back in the more than once a year rotation. So we'll see where that lands.
Masses want it. We all want it.
Same. I'm part of the masses. I loved it. It was nice to just kind of, do the thing.
And also, by the way, Paul, thanks for making me have anxiety without even having a show coming up. When he's talking about how the doors are open and they haven't even sound checked, and I was sweating and just getting weird feelings. That's like my nightmare, dude. And you're making me feel that without even having the show happen.
Yeah. Yep. I know. Yep. Yeah, it's
I have those I have those
dicey.
nightmares reoccurring where like the doors have opened and we haven't even like set up on stage. It's a nightmare every time I have it.
Yeah. All right. I want to. There's an interesting thing that happens here. So you have a couple topics that you want to get to this episode. I have a couple topics I want to get to. One of them is the iterating and digging into that sound check thing. I had a rehearsal yesterday that kind of made me realize some things, and so we'll talk about that. But you said you had two things you wanted to talk about this episode, right?
Well, I was gonna give you both of them and see which one made the most sense. We can talk about one of them. We can talk about both of them. Number one. Would you like to talk about the fact that the Pork Tornadoes officially played a show in front of 2,000 people with a singer lip syncing the entire time and no one knowing about it?
Okay.
Or would you like to talk about the breakdown cost of this huge show we just put on? What it costs for a cover band to put on and four-wall an event like we just did in front of 2,000 people in our hometown?
All right, let's start with the second one, and we're going to get to the lip syncing thing because I'm curious about both.
Oh man,
here.
people are gonna just be in arms about this one, but I got things to say.
I know we should tease it up and then do it later in the episode so people listen all the way through. People are going to listen all the way through anyway, or they can skip or whatever. So let's do the thing. Let's talk about breaking down all the costs.
Well, so this is always an interesting topic to me. So there's these venues in our town in Cedar Rapids and around the state that are owned by big entities that bring in national acts. And every time that we play a show at one of these places, you get a lot of a backlog. You see the comments being like, well, why do the Pork Tornadoes get to play there? We other bands should get a chance to play at the Paramount Theater. It's
sure.
like, well, you clearly don't understand how the music business works. We were not asked to play this show. We said, "Hi, we would like to book a show here, and we would like to pay for it." I had a musician reach out to me privately saying, "Hey, I think my band would do really well at that show you just played. Like, what did it cost?" And I told him what we paid to do that, and he went, "Oh, okay, never mind." Because you just assume. In fact, there's this music census thing that our city has just implemented where they're trying to figure out how to make live music better. And I've gone to some of the meetings and there's been all these conversations of like, we got to get the local bands on the big stages. It's like, God, you guys just don't understand what it's like to run a business. Because why would a venue that is going to cost this much money for their staff and their union labor and not bringing in Morgan Wallen, instead letting your band play, why would they just do a free show for a local band where they don't make any money? This is just business 101, right?
It costs a fixed amount for a venue to turn the lights on, and they need to get that fixed amount back. Plus, hopefully some profit for them as a rental fee of the venue. I mean, that, like you said, that is business 101. Yeah. It's really great to sit and say, oh man, my band would do great at Madison Square Garden. Call up whoever. Call up Billy Joel.
You can play Madison Square Garden. You can
go do it. Just like every other band. You call them up, you book the freaking room, and then you pay them a deposit, I would presume. I haven't booked Madison Square Garden myself, so I'm not quite sure how that works. But at the end of the day, you are paying them a minimum fixed sum, and then you're going to sell tickets and hopefully cover your costs. Your costs.
Well, and that is where the disconnect comes in a lot from the old school mentality of cover bands being like, well, we're the entertainment and you hired us at X dollar amount to play on your stage, and that is why you hired us.
But there's nothing wrong with that mentality as long as those are the gigs you're playing. Weddings, corporate events, right? You're not responsible for the draw at those. You're responsible for the show at those.
Yeah, but see, like that's where the mentality is wrong when it's just a local bar gig, right?
Correct.
The people that go, well, no, our band makes $800 regardless of who comes through the door. It's like, well, see, that's where you're not understanding why you're not getting called back.
Maybe once.
Yeah, correct. Because this bar is going, here's money, here's our stage, here's our PA, here's our electricity, here's everything you could ever need. I now need people to show up to help fund what I just did for you. It's not a charity going, hey, let's let that classic rock band play. It'll be so fun for them. They've been dreaming about playing here forever. No, it's a business. And that's where people that want to take the next step in cover band and tribute band world, they have to start realizing that if they're not generating money for all the people around them, like it's just not gonna work because there are all these costs.
It can't be a zero sum game, right? Everyone needs to win together in order for everyone to want to keep doing it together again. And that's why I say you might get your $800 or your $1,000, whatever your number is, once. But if the everyone isn't making money, and that includes the establishment making money and believing that, and there's something to this, believing that part of why they made money was because of you. Now, they may have their own sort of built-in crowd, and their built-in crowd likes bands like yours or specifically likes your band. And so, maybe there's a blend. It doesn't have to be every person in there was brought in because you came in, but you kept them there. You entertained the people that were there. You did the right thing for that group of people, and it's a good fit. And if that's the case, great. Everybody makes money.
We're going to do it again.
Well, let's do it again. But otherwise, if you're trying to convince people to take your phone call for a renewal, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here, right? You've already gotten in the door. You played there once. If they're not calling you, then they're not interested. You might beat down their door if you're really good at sales and like convince them to take you again, but like they should be calling you. And that's the goal with every show, not just the first show, but certainly with the first show and every show thereafter is you're working for the renewal on the next one.
People ask always, how did the Pork Tornadoes get to this? It's like, well, if you go back to the days where we were playing bars, when we got a chance to play there, we went all out making sure that it was promoted so well that people came and people came in droves and people stayed and spend as much money on liquor as they can. The funny story is that one of the guys that booked us in Cedar Rapids our first time, like, hates the music we play. He doesn't listen to it, doesn't want to hear it at his bar. But the first time we were there, set an attendance record and set a bar sales record. And so you'd best believe before we even left, he's like, get your calendar open. Let's go. Let's get another date. Also, here's a raise. Play at our place exclusively. So if you do those things, then that's where it's like the mentality of being the entertainer that was hired. You kind of have to think beyond that nowadays, especially with all the competition.
Well, again, if you're in a wedding band and that's all you do, then you are exactly the entertainer that's being hired.
For sure.
And there's no issue with that. You make a lot of money doing that. They're long days. There's all the things that go into it. The show's not about you, not even a little bit. Right. All those things that go into being a wedding band. But that is and a function band. I should zoom out on that. It's not just weddings, but corporate gigs and other functions where you truly, not only are you not responsible for bringing the crowd, you're not allowed to bring a crowd to a wedding.
Yeah, they can't come.
That'd be bad.
Don't promote it. Don't tell anybody where you're playing
Please
tonight.
don't promote it. Right. Yeah, exactly. But if you're looking to if you're playing clubs and you want to sort of keep elevating up, that and there will be. You'll put in the work. You got to put in the work first. But there will be those moments, like you said, when the club says, we want to do an exclusive with you. That's a signal. That should be like, one of those moments where you're like, wait a minute, something's going on. Like, this is something we should capitalize on.
Do not
here.
go down the street and play Tom's Bar. You are not allowed to. Please only play our place.
That when somebody says that to you, it means you're doing something right. Figure out why they're saying that to you.
Yes.
Then
rinse and repeat that in another town.
Exactly.
Find that other bar.
Find okay, are we cool playing, an hour from here? Yeah, no problem. Okay, great. You set your radius, all that stuff, and then you do it. And now you've got your little haunts that you play and you're making money. Everybody's making money. You've got different crowds that you're exposing the band to and you're building your mailing list, right? You're building your mailing list, right, folks? And that's how things work. All right. We've preached here.
Tangent. We always
That's
do.
okay. That's okay. I do want to get to this cost breakdown though.
So this venue, we signed on the dotted line. We were now in the hole, in debt for these cost. This is what it was going to cost us before we made a single dollar as an entity.
Before you left the house to play the gig.
Yes, this is what we are on the hook for. So stop me at any point. I'm going to go down the line.
Just go down the line.
The rental of the building, just a flat out cost, was $2,000. Just to have rights to play a show in that building
For one night. Yeah.
for one night. This is the type of venue where it's
What? How many
modular.
people in this venue? What's the capacity?
So it's a modular venue, which is going to get to the next one, where it can fit like it's like an 8,000 person indoor arena, but at the same time, then it can be scaled back to like a half house show. We've been taking the thing where we're just doing like the floor of it. They have this aspect to kind of curtain off the balconies.
Curtain off the balconies. Yep.
And so we do a VIP pit plus a GA, and we had 1,600 people there on the floor, and that was about capacity for
capacity. Okay, so a 1,600
Picture the
person
floor
show
of a hockey arena. That's basically what that is.
Amazing.
So one of the biggest costs, if not the biggest cost, is the stage hands labor. This is a union facility, and everything has to be built. Everything has to be flown. Every single aspect of this building has to be built from nothing and then torn down to nothing afterwards. So $6,100 went into all of the required labor that was required to put the show, to build the stage, to rig all the PA and all the lights and everything that we brought in. And that's union labor. So then they've got their breaks and they've got their required amounts that we have to pay them. We have to feed them. So there is a lot of costs associated with that. The next
Makes
one,
sense.
the event, we also have to pay for the venue staff. So the event staff of ticket takers, anybody working the event that night was $1,200. We had to pay for a cleaning fee for the facility once it was over. That's $500.
That's not included in the building rental, I will point out.
Nope. And then the box office also has its fees. There are credit card fees, like we have to pay any credit card fees that people use online, plus the staff that works there, the time spent there. The opening act, we are very, I'll like to see what your thoughts on this. We feel we're very generous. We like to get a good opening act. We like to make sure they're treated well. So we paid $1,200 to an opener to play for 45 minutes for the show.
I think that's an amazing feat. That's amazing. And I'm sure you treated them well, and they had like a nice little, hospitality and all that stuff. We skipped the dollar amount for box office fees. We talked about what they were.
$1,000. $1,000 for box office fees.
Thank you.
Now, part of the building rental is that you do have access to their very basic production package. We do not agree with what they have. We've seen shows there where nationals have come through and been like, this is just not great. But you're a national, who cares? You're churning through towns, making money. Right. So we paid an extra $5,000 to our production company to be there, to not only run all the lights and the sound, but to bring supplemental things like LED walls, lot better lighting package. Just everything that makes sure that we are going to be putting on a good show.
Would they have provided, for that $2,000 venue rental, would they have provided a front of house engineer and a lighting engineer? I see. Okay.
So they would have had
you chose not
been
to.
Willing to do. If we would have very much struggled, we could have gone that route. But we just knew our quality has always been so high in this town that we don't feel like we can go backwards when it comes to that. So
for sure.
So you've got the extra fees there, and then we spend a lot of money on advertising. That is no secret. Anytime we're doing a ticketed event, you can't be in the hole for this amount of money and just rely on just like a Facebook post and a Facebook event. So we spent $1,750 on all kinds of advertising. That is meta campaigns. That is anything we could get our hands on locally that would do some work for us. So $1,750 on advertising. Our crew made $925 total. That is our techs, our roadies, merch sellers.
975, you said?
925.
25, got it. Yep. Okay.
And then we had to pay for our own catering, hospitality. We got to feed our crew. We got to feed our front of house. We had a few hotel rooms for some people out of town. So $1,050 was our hospitality, catering, hotels.
Okay.
And that should total out to $20,725.
That's what I have. Yep. And then we got 1,600 people that you believe you can put in the venue. And of course, at the end of the day, you did put in the venue. So what that means is that for each of those 1,600 people that were in there, you were in the hole $13 per person out of the gate. So whatever you charged for tickets had to be at least $13 a person, and I would highly recommend it to be more.
Yeah, the idea is to make profits.
Correct.
On this show, yes.
That's right. Yeah.
And so the interesting thing about it is I think most people are probably looking at that going, oh my good Lord, why would you ever do something like that? But the interesting point of it is that when you are able to bank on yourself and when you are able to create a product that people want, we only play in this town twice a year, summer, winter. We know people are going to come out. We know they're going to do it. They know we provide a good product to where this was one of our biggest paydays ever. If you do the math in your head. So not only did we spend $20,000, but we individually, the four of us, made more money almost in the history of the band than we ever had in one show. So
for one show. Sure. Because you four-walled it. You did it yourself. You took the risk and therefore you get the reward. That's how business works.
Yep. And guys, we're a cover band. We literally play Uptown Funk at one point in the show. You know what I mean? Like it is so totally doable to have this kind of success as a variety cover band.
Yeah. Let me articulate that a little bit. You guys are good. I've seen your videos. I've never had the pleasure of seeing you live. I hope that changes someday. But you're good. You are not so much better than every other band that's out there from a musical standpoint. Your show is pretty good. Like so like you are good musicians. You play and sing well. Your show is a level above what I would say most bands do. And your business is the thing that drives your band. Is that a fair assessment of what your business skills are the thing that drive your band?
It's everything. It's taking the talent of the four people in this band, making sure our show on stage is not only sounding better, the gear. We had a guy the other day that ran front of house for us that had never run us before. He's like, that was the easiest show I've ever run in my life because you guys are just your gear is so good. You're so dialed in. You understand stage volume. You know, so we've got the sound quality. We've got the quality of the musicians. We've banked on video wall content and lighting and people that we can trust to make sure it sounds good. But then we can take that product and get it to the world in some way that they can figure it out and go, I need to see those guys. And that is literally all it takes. It's not talent. I mean, there are bands that are better than us and
you're good, but you're not virtuosos. At least that it doesn't come. You might be virtuosos. That is not what we are putting on the stage. You are putting on the stage a solid variety cover band with a great production and great marketing.
Yeah, guys, not once in 15 years has anyone ever come up to me and been like, you're an amazing drummer. Oh my God, your drumming is out of the... No one has ever said that to me. I am so mediocre average. But like what we do as a whole on the stage is unbeatable. You know, individually we're all good at what we do, but you know, and we've adapted, right? So for instance, we don't say a single word to the crowd for like the first 65 minutes of the show. We are literally song ends, next song's going. I mean, because we realized we saw other bands playing. We're like, this is stupid. They think they're hilarious on stage with this banter, but no one in the crowd can even understand it or hear it. And we went back and looked at old videos of us and we're like, we are stupid. Why are we talking? Why do we think we're hilarious? People don't want to hear us talk and go, well, this next song's about, it was written in 2022 and nobody wants to hear that.
The banter thing is a skill, a craft to learn. And if you are not paying attention to it and treating it like practice, like you would with, you know, your instrument or rehearsing your songs, like you need to rehearse the banter, you need to refine it, look back, what worked, what didn't, and you're going to make some stumbles. One way to solve that problem is to have none, right? Like that. Yeah. If you think, or if you know that you do have some value to your banter, use it judiciously and be wise about it. I mean, a band that's fantastic with banter is Bowling for Soup. Yeah. Right.
That's sort of what they do. It's like you're expecting them to do.
You expect
Blink-182. You are going to hear them say the things that they say.
Yes, but they also understand that they are saying these things, speaking them into a microphone in a room full of people that are talking with each other. Right? Yes. That's just that's how rock shows are. You're not in a theater. And so they understand that they need to project into the microphone, articulate clearly, right? They're not mumbling. There's, sometimes it either one of those bands you mentioned or one I mentioned, but either one of those bands, they'll articulate clearly, and then there'll be something they say half off the mic to another band member that really is only meant for that band member to hear. And what they're doing there is drawing you in. You're like, wait, I want to know what that joke was, and it was not meant for you, but if you were paying very close attention, you might have gotten it. And they're good at it.
Yeah, there are people that are just talented at somehow
They're stand-up comedians is what they are.
So I saw a guy, it was a 3-comedian bill. Bert Kreischer was the headliner. I've gotten to know him pretty well, and he came through our town, and the first guy was like super loud, and like he's the first guy, he's got to like, let's go. The second guy, as his set went, he just got quieter and quieter. And he just, the whole crowd came down with him as he like... And no, you can't just decide to do that. You have to be good at that.
I watched a jazz guitar player, this guy named Joe Beck. He passed away. If you've never heard his name, that's fine. You've definitely heard his playing on like jingles and stuff like that. But he used to play a lot of jazz and fusion gigs in the New York area. And I went to see him at a club. It was just him playing guitar, jazz club. He started off, the room was loud, and I could see he was like frustrated about it. People were talking. And after the first song, he reaches over and he turns his amp down. And it was like, oh, wait a minute. And I'm watching. I went to see Joe, so I'm not talking during the set, but I get it. Like it's a club. Like the people serving alcohol. Once people start drinking, they think that talking is really what everybody wants, and that's not always the case. It turns out. But he turned it down. He plays the next song. Nope, still talking. Turned it down. Plays the next song. Finally got to a point where the room, you could hear a pin drop.
Yep.
And it's, you set that noise floor. If you take it away, people are going to it's going to feel awkward to talk.
No, I don't suggest trying that as a classic rock variety band in Joe's Shack Tavern on a Saturday night. I don't suggest that. I suggest yelling as loud as you can into the microphone when you're bantering.
That's correct.
But when you get to a certain level, yes, you can learn that craft. And when people buy tickets to see you, you can do that.
Right. These were hard ticket sales, just like your event. Yes. Hard ticket sales versus soft ticket sales. I also want to come back to something that you said in passing. We play this town twice a year.
Yeah. Once
in the winter, once in the summer. That having your own radius, awareness of your radius and timing. When we had Laura Supan on, she's a booking agent, right, for bands, and asked her, okay, well, what do you do? What level does a band need to be at before it makes sense for them to call someone like you, And she said, yep. And we talked about where a band needs to be. And she says, really it's that you can sell 500 tickets in your home area once a year. And I stopped, and then other things like, and if you've traveled and you can sell tickets here and there. She had a whole thing, and I'll put a link to the episode because she was great. I'll forget half of it, so I'm not going to try and flesh it out here. But I remember stopping her and saying, "Wait, once a year in my home area. What about the rest of the year?" And she said, "No, you should not be playing your home area more than once a year." And it was like, oh, right.
And the minute you're thinking about four-walling an event and selling tickets, that needs to be the first and foremost thing you decide. You go, well, then I guess we're not playing a non-ticketed event ever again in this town, because why would I spend $10 to see your band at this local theater when a month from now you're going to be at Joe's Tap Tavern, blah, 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 no cover.
No cover.
Like, why would I ever, unless I was just so close of a friend with you? And even then I'd be like, man, hey, money's tight, dude. I'm not spending $10 to go see you.
So is that what you charged? Did you charge $10 a ticket?
No. So we we always do a VIP.
Because I know you're $13 a ticket. I did the math. That's bad.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. We have a
Okay.
$40 limited VIP, usually $40 to $50 VIP ticket for an X amount of people. That includes you're up front and you've got a private bar and all this nice features, and then $25 for GA.
Nice. It makes perfect sense.
Now, before you start calculating all that, there's the venue then, of course, takes a cut of that ticket fee because there is a facility fee. And so it's not going to be as good as your numbers are going to reflect, but also you're not going to know about the sponsorship money that we also brought in from local businesses. So I'm just going to keep you in the dark on that one.
No, that's fine. No, but see, that's the thing is I've been wondering especially with Casual Gravity, certainly. And I've done this before. I could reach out to the people who make my drumsticks or the people who make my drum heads and get them to send me, probably not free stuff. Usually when you're in bands of our level, you get artist pricing on things when you're an endorser of stuff. But there's artist deals that you can get, and then you have to put have to mention their things in your social posts and on your kick drum or whatever. And that's fine. And you can do that. I always think it's weird to say that, I only play Paiste cymbals. It's like, well, then when somebody says, I'm going to rant for a second. When somebody says, I only play Paiste cymbals, right? Paiste, however you want to pronounce it. What that tells me is, okay, well, you had to do this deal. You agreed to be exclusive with them because you like them enough and you're okay being limited to what their selection is. That's fine. If I see someone playing mostly Paiste, maybe they got Paiste hi-hats and crashes and a ride, but they've got, a Wuhan crash and a Zildjian K splash cymbal. That tells me this person cares about what their stuff sounds like. And I am more apt to be influenced. My purchasing decisions are more apt to be influenced by the person that plays multiple. It's clear they are making choices, not just being railroaded in because of a contract.
Yeah.
And I've never understood why a company like Paiste, and maybe I'll get Tim Shahadi on the show and we'll have this conversation with him. I'd love to, because I've never understood.
I will specifically play Paiste if he wants me to.
I basically do these days, which
whatever he wants, I'll do. Okay.
I never would have imagined, but I do. It turns out I like Paiste cymbals, but that's the thing is I wound up selecting them because I like them the best, and there was never I need to just buy this one brand. It was, let me check all of them. I kind of like that one. Huh, that surprises me. I didn't think I liked Paiste. Turns out I do. It just seems weird to be railroaded in. I get why companies would want that sort of, but also wouldn't you rather really make it worth people's while? I don't know. Maybe people are stupid. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yes. They are.
That's my rant. I have maybe we take a left turn. Unless you have more to say on this. So
no. Moral of the story. Let's wrap that up. Moral of the story is that you can do whatever you want, and the more work you put into your band, the more money you're going to make. But you have to be willing to make sacrifices and take risks and expand beyond your world if you want to move into the next level. And that's the conversation I have with anybody that's like, how do I get to play that club? It's like, well, are you willing to only play once or twice a year in this town? Check. Are you willing to possibly owe a venue $20,000? Check.
Check.
Go through these lists, and I guess I like telling those stories to be like, you can totally do this, but you're gonna have to take everything you do to the next level if you want to pull this off.
Yes. You have to take the risk. I have nothing more to say on that.
Yeah, that's that. There you go. Wrap it up. But I know you got something you want to talk about though too.
Well, I'm in the middle. So we are recording this the morning of the day where I'm playing this Bob Dylan tribute tonight. We loaded into the theater. We've rehearsed a couple times here at my studio. Pulled the songs together. We loaded into the theater last night, got set up, did our sound check, and then rehearsed everything again. And we had an interesting thing. There's a sound engineer there that's not the normal sound engineer because that person's out for a little bit, like they PTO, right? So there's a sub, I'll say. I don't know whether this person's going to be in the mix going forward or not, but it's this theater I've probably done, a couple hundred gigs there, if not more, a lot of gigs. I know this room. And so this new engineer, very competent, like she's great. She's like doing all the things. Okay, good. We get set up, we're playing, and it's like none of us are comfortable, all on in-ears. And it's like, okay, after like 3 songs, I stopped and I'm like, all right, we got to figure something out here. And I just asked her, and again, this was all, there was no animosity and this was not an adversarial situation. It was very much we're in this together. And I asked her, I said, all right, I have a really weird sonic picture of my drums. Like all I'm getting is cymbals from the overheads. We weren't close miking the toms, which is totally fine in this room. We have kick, snare, and then overheads. And all I was getting was cymbals in my overheads and no toms. Like I had to hit my toms as hard as I could to hear them. It was just this weird, imbalanced thing. And of course, because everybody's on ears and we're very spread out in this theater, everybody has some version of the drums in their ears. It's not, it's everybody's got a little bit of everything to their own taste. And as soon as I said it, everybody's like, yeah, what's going on? Why can't oh, that's it. That's the problem. And she said, oh, that's probably a me thing. She's like, I got to look at, I think she had built a show file at home on her laptop before she came and loaded it in on the console at the theater, which is smart. And she's like, I think I used some defaults on overhead. She's like, yep, I have the, high pass filter set on them to, to only have cymbals, but of course, since we're not miking the toms, yeah, I gotta pull that down. And so she adjusted that. I'd probably argue that maybe we could adjust it more, but it started bringing some of that in, and then there was like weird phasing happening, and it took an hour of playing music. This is after sound check and line check and all that stuff. An hour into playing music, we finally played a song, and after we finished it, every one of us said, "Okay." That actually felt like us as a band playing music. And we've all played music together a lot. We know how to play with each other. And we felt like we were like super disconnected. And it's just one of those, and I'm still like apprehensive about this because it never was great, the mix. It was just like there's something weird going on. And it might be the way it's being mixed in the house, because certainly we're getting some of that, bleed into our bodies and, all those things. And, it made me think with our bands, we solved this problem by getting a split snake and, you do whatever you want for front of house. Our ears and our mix is going to be our mix, and you don't even touch that, let alone have the ability to potentially mess with it. It's like, nope, this is your world, this is our world. But when you're playing in a bunch of different scenarios in different places, you don't get the option of doing that. That's not a feasible thing for this particular gig. It's like you got to just deal with the house system. And I've done that a ton because I do a lot of gigs with different musicians. And I'm still trying to figure out how best to communicate what we need to engineers so that we don't run into this weird thing. And I'm usually pretty good at sleuthing out what the problem is. And even after we fixed the toms and sort of got things in, it's still just the whole thing just felt wrong. Like I said, I think there's some phasing issues with the way the overheads are set up that might need to be tweaked, but I don't know. It never felt like a band playing, except for like a few little moments. And it's always good to go into a gig like not confident about things. Like if the rehearsal last night was awesome, we'd go into this being like, oh, it's going to be a breeze, and we would flub things and it would be messy. I don't think it's going to be messy tonight, but I think everybody's a little bit like, I don't know. And I can't put my finger on what it is. And
that's the importance of the splitter snake in your own rig and investing in that and in-ears. And I mean, like the idea that you'll never, very, very, very rarely are you going to have any issues or any worry about what your band sounds like and the comfortability of how you are on stage. You're like, very rarely do you have something that's going to be a problem. And that is, there's something to be said about just, we all worry about enough things going into these shows. So like, do we know the stuff? Are people going to show up? Are we going to make enough money? Is this guy going to be sick tonight? Like, we worry about so much stuff that it's like, let's just at least take one out of the mix.
That's the frustrating part is it's like, we're doing this show once. We've rehearsed it a few times.
You mean like this group of people will not be together likely anytime soon? Is that what you're saying? Like,
we might play together, but it will not be this Bob Dylan show. It will be like this group of people with maybe a substitution here or there. We'll be doing the Green Day tribute that we're doing in May or whatever,
right.
and the Taylor Swift tribute that we're doing in August, right? Like, there's a bunch of these things, and there's a group of, let's say, 10 to 12 musicians that are all kind of in play for any of these events. And we all know each other. We all know how to play with each other. And depending on what's needed for and who's available for a specific night of a show, it's like, okay, yep, this one. But generally, me, the keyboard player, the bass player, and one of the guitar players are kind of solid we're doing all of these things together.
It's almost like one of you guys needs to invest in it and own it.
Well, we can't though. Like that's what I'm saying is like in this environment, there's no option for a splitter snake.
Okay. I see
like,
what you're saying.
And there are gigs like this. You get a one-off gig here or there. That's not. Yeah. Oh, a splitter snake and I own a mixer, and a splitter snake is what $200-$300. Like,
so why are you saying
nothing.
that it's not possible in that environment?
Because of the way the sound system works in this building, it would be. Everything's possible,
of
Mike.
Course.
Yeah, but it's just the way this theater in this building works. It would be a huge. We've never had this problem in this building before. It's never perfect. Well, sometimes it gets perfect, but it's usually more than good enough. This is the first time this has happened, but it reminded me of the gigs that you get where, if I'm filling in for somebody, I don't get to just say, like, I don't get to demand, we're bringing a splitter snake, we're doing this thing. And I'm always on the lookout for tips of like, how do I get what I need? And I don't even know what's wrong with this mix.
I know that's the problem, right? You're like, I don't know why.
And I'm pretty good at this. Like,
you almost need to go and volunteer your time to be an engineer at this venue where you're not playing, right?
I need to learn their board. They got a new mixer in there about 2 years ago, and it's the Allen, and I believe it's Allen and Heath. And I have not messed with it, but yeah, I'm at a loss. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
Maybe a listener knows.
Hopefully the gig will go well. Yeah.
That's a ticketed event tonight.
It is. Yeah.
Do you know how many tickets like you've sold? Have you been pre-selling, or is this more?
It's been pre-selling. Yep. And it'll probably be 50-50 pre-sales and walk-ups. So, and the theater itself holds, let's say 250 people. My guess is that we'll have probably 150 in there tonight. Wednesday night, $42 tickets. So,
damn.
Yeah. I think they're a little proud on the ticket prices. I don't get to pick that, but that, that's what it is. And enough people will pay it. Like when we did those Zeppelin tributes, same theater, same prices, $42, and 2 of the nights were basically sold out. So
Don't underestimate. I've always found success with tiers, right? Because there are people that $42 are going to be a lot, and maybe they just don't care enough. They want to support you, but they're like, I don't like the Beatles that much, so they're just going to say no thanks. But don't ever underestimate, if you're four-walling an event, do not underestimate the people that do have money and that not only just want to support you and just like, sure, whatever the top ticket is, I love those guys, I'll pay for it, but also want the experience. All these new venues. There are 2 new venues. There's one brand new Live Nation venue that was built from the ground up in Des Moines, Iowa, like $40 million ground up. And then there's an old ballroom that a local company in Des Moines took over, threw about $10 million into it. And both of them are 2 of the nicest venues I've ever been to. And the reason being is the fan experience has been upgraded. These venues, if you go to the Armory in Minneapolis, they all have, sure, you want to be the 18-year-old kid in GA on the floor, here's a $20 ticket. Sounds good. But
knock yourself out.
Spend money to have a private booth, reserved seating, private entry, bathrooms, your own bar, you can do that. And there are people that always will do that. I am one of them.
I was just going to say, I am on that list.
Here you go. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, it's instead of $50 a ticket, it's going to be $150 a ticket, but I get all this stuff. You got it. Here you go.
Got it. Yeah, this is worth it to remove friction from my evening. I will give you this money. Yes. And Bill Graham was known for building venues to prioritize the fan experience, right? Like that was kind of his thing. It's like, build a venue to hold 10,000 people that you're only going to put 7,500 people in. It's kind of easy math when you start to think about it. But prioritize that fan experience and become known for that.
Yep.
And then people will want to frequent it. I have a question for you. In the Pork Tornadoes, when you're learning songs, how many of you guys, of the 4 of you, have been prior to Pork Tornadoes, or maybe alongside it, but I don't think you have any other projects going, have been in original bands prior to that? Bands where, someone wrote the songs, not necessarily one of you, but, you were putting together songs that were written by someone in the band, arranging them and doing all that.
Yeah, I don't think there's many people out there that are in cover bands now that didn't at one point play in an original band, because I've told a guy the other day that, like, all my dreams from the minute I started playing drums at 10 years old was to be a famous rock star playing in front of thousands of people. And I never experienced it because, all the bands I was in, we had moderate success, but never the chances of you being the next Nickelback or whatever. It's like, no, good luck, bro.
It's limited. Well, it's interesting because I've noticed a thing when it comes to arranging songs and harmonies and like all of the things. People who have been in original bands that are in cover bands or cover projects, approach it like, all right, we're going to take this song and play it. We're going to run it through the filter that is the 4 of us playing this song. Mm-hmm. It's impossible for us to be the 4 people who recorded the song. Yeah. We know that. We can approximate what they did. We're going to respect what they did. We're certainly trying to recreate for our audiences the experience of hearing this song the way they're expecting to hear it. But there's a lot of nuances between a perfect recreation and the best recreation because of the filter that it goes through that is the 4 of us, humans.
No, I see exactly what you're saying. No, and to answer that initial question, all 4 of us have been in original bands. I still play in a side project called Dope Walker that we've put out a few albums over the last couple of years. But the interesting thing about Pork Tornadoes is that Jerry, the keyboard player, started an original band back in 2006. I was the original drummer for his side project.
Yep.
I left, and a month after that, Corey, the bass player, joined Jerry's band and played in it. And then at the very end of that project, Mason, our singer guitar player, joined that project. So at one point, all 3 of us played in Jerry's original band. And I see where you're going with this, because I agree. I think that the uniqueness of our arrangements and how we pick songs and how we figure out how it's going to sound and how we change them is 100% due to not only our unique, we all like totally different bands, and we all like Mason's really into like metal and like what you wouldn't think, and then like I love this, and so not only our personal taste, but the way we've come from original bands of that sitting in a room and going, no, how about like no, wait, what if you did that right there? Oh yeah, you know, like that's how original music is written, and I think
it has to be. Yeah.
I think we've always taken that approach to anything we've put together on stage for a cover band, is like, no. Like, what if you did?
What if you did?
Yeah, you should do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Or,
Not.
hey, that don't do that. I don't like.
Or
what you just did
don't
there.
do that. Yeah. Oh, that's bad. Or wait. What you're doing is cool, but there's one thing that's wrong about it. Like, let's dig in and fix that. That, to me, is how most cover bands, like you said, with people who've been in original bands, do it. Theater is absolutely not that, right? The parts are written. This is, you're putting on whatever, I don't know, whatever musical, Oklahoma. The parts are written. You play the parts. You sing the people who are singing sing the exact parts. And there's, where I noticed this recently was we were doing, as I've been doing more of these things, it is with these one night off sort of tribute things. It is with a group of people that we have all played theater shows together. And where I noticed it first, but it was happening with the music, but I noticed it with the harmonies. We got into this default of like, all right, the harmonies on the album are this, and this. So therefore we must assign these parts to certain people and try and sing it. And it's like, we never once would stop and say, okay, but wait, how do these three voices, the voices that we happen to have in the room, amongst us bodies here, how do these voices blend the best? Like, trying to recreate how three voices that are not ours blend is going to be, if we get it, it's like we're lucky. It's just dumb luck. But starting by assigning parts, you miss out on, wait, let's just sing where we're all comfortable and see what happens. And if there's something specific that needs to be there, great. Well, we can address that. But I'm always a blend first kind of person when it comes to that stuff, musically and vocally, harmony wise. And it dawned on me about halfway through doing this Dylan thing. I was like, wait, I think we're approaching this wrong. Bob Dylan, he was a terrible song arranger. And that's okay. Like, I think he's terrible at it because he never really spent any time at it. He just wrote lyrics and found a way to turn them into song, and he was done. And it was left to other people to arrange, and that's totally fine. And to take these other people's arrangements of Dylan songs and try and play them, as verbatim as possible, is like, this is a disaster. Yeah. And what I realized is there are some people involved in this that have never played in original bands. They've always been in like the theater world. And it was like,
classically trained and read the music and give me the music. I need to know what I'm playing.
We can all read, but some of us are more used to being in we have more experience being in scenarios where that's not the prime skill, right? And as soon as it dawned on me, I brought it up at one of the rehearsals. I was like, hey, I think I know there's another way to approach it. I think it's going to be better. Let's just try this. Can we just sing Quinn the Eskimo and see where everybody lands? And if we got two people on the same part, let's talk about that, But let's sing where everybody's comfortable. Let's use our ears and our voices and sing it through 4 times. Sing the chorus through 4 times. And let's see where we land after the 4th time before anybody has any feedback for anyone else, right? And we did it, and we got to the end. It was like, okay, well, yeah, that's done. It's like, yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. I mean, Quinn the Eskimo is a pretty straightforward song. There's not a lot of, it's not like a Fleetwood Mac tune where you got to figure out, well, wait, how did the harmony fit with that chord? It's like, it's 3 chords and the truth, man. Like, you're good to go.
And it's familiarity too. Like, I don't sing, I don't sing in the band, but I watch the 3 of those guys make their harmonies work on a new song. And they generally just know where each other's gonna probably start out, and then they just do it. And then they can decide if it's not working or if it's not right. I mean, that's definitely the original band version of it. It's like, let's just do it and don't judge anybody. Let's just Whenever we learn, we don't actually practice anymore. When we're onboarding a new song, it usually comes down to Mason says, okay, we've picked our song. Here's the key I want to do it in. And for the most part, let's do it like the album. Learn the structure of it.
Yeah, the structure like the album, or like this YouTube video because they ended it live as opposed to fading it out on the record. Whatever. Yep.
Yeah, and then we all figure out our parts and rehearse them on our own, developing our own tendencies of whatever we want to do, and then we just get into a sound check and go, here it goes. And full well knowing it's not going to be perfect.
No,
this is the first time we've ever played it, but that is when we can sit there and go, oh yeah, that's great. That's not good.
Yes.
What if you did this? And then we play it again. And then next sound check, we'll try it again. And then our songs are never done. They keep evolving. There's never a set in stone version. We keep changing them as they go. But that's how you evolve that song and find every once in a while, somebody will do something on stage in the middle of the show. You're like, oh, that's it. That's it. And we give each other the face.
Keep doing that.
Whatever that was, go.
Yeah.
And I think we play for the most part the same songs every night. So the uniqueness of the ability to mess around with it a little bit is kind of fun.
And if you make them yours, and again, within reason, right?
Oh, of course.
There is room between note perfect recreation of the studio recording and what a discerning fan is going to expect to hear, right?
Right.
Like you can live in that zone, and candidly, that zone is where your best version is going to live. Yeah. Because you're not Fleetwood Mac, you're not Taylor Swift, you're not any of these bands, you're Pork Tornadoes or we're Casual Gravity. Like, and it's how Casual learns songs. Although I think there's at least one of us in Casual that's never been in original bands, but he's been in enough cover bands that
sometimes
he's learned
the world
the
of cover bands will treat you, will give you the same skills eventually.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. I think it's the if you start by being classically trained, or if you just get into that mindset and are used to it and it becomes the default, it's great. I mean, I do it too. Sometimes, like with Fling especially, we still have good harmonies in Fling. We just don't play often enough. But that band really was a harmony machine in its like heyday.
There's nothing better than that.
No. Oh, it's not, but we would do the normal thing where we just sang it and then we would stop and it'd be like, all right, what if it's always the what if.
The
what if, right? And the what if would turn it into this thing. But we all knew after doing it a few times, we all knew what we were capable of.
Yes.
And we were willing to push ourselves collectively to get to that point. Now I'm throwing my microphone around. It's right. Get to that point where it's just like, okay, like this is gonna turn the heads of the people at the bar that have been ignoring us all night. Like that was always the goal. It's like, wait, what is that? That's Fling. That's
time to get a show together, man.
I think we're gonna play this summer.
Nice.
Yeah. Before we go, Mike, I have one last thing to ask you about. Have you been lip syncing this entire episode?
We do not. I feel bad that we tease this because we do not have enough time to unpack this. But I'm going to tease this for a future episode. Great. I'm just going to set the stage for you.
Got it.
The Pork Tornadoes are playing a show in front of 2,000 people on a giant. Let's just call it. We'll call it New Year's Eve, an event, a night where 2,000 people have spent money, have got sitters, have got hotels, have brought friends together, have made their evening plans around a band called the Pork Tornadoes. And in sound check, we're going, the lead singer's vocals are, we could just cancel. We could just cancel the show and just like let everybody down. And we're not Morgan Wallen, where if he comes through once every 5 years and has a bad show, people are like, I still love him. It's okay.
Yeah, right.
Right. At a local level, sometimes you get one shot at somebody.
Casual had to cancel a show because Tom got super sick, and it was like,
see how, and I heard your episode, see how bad, like how just terrible of a situation that is.
Yes.
Just letting people down, and the venue's mad, and fans might be mad. So luckily, we've been prepared. We know that we're in a position now to where so many people depend on money from us. Our crew wouldn't have got paid. Our production company wouldn't have got paid if we canceled. We would have owed money to the venue. Venue would have hated us. Where we need contingency plans, right? So I think we talked about this in a past episode. Our bass player couldn't make a show because his daughter was born and went to intensive ICU. And we just clicked a button and the bass tracks played and nobody was the wiser. So I'm going to argue that at this show, halfway through, we just turned on a button and the lead singer pretended to sing the remaining 8 songs and no one in the crowd knew. Everybody in the crowd had the time of their life. And I would like to argue that even if the crowd did know, they'd be like, hey, thanks for doing that. I think they'd be like, no, that's cool. We didn't. Because there are these people that go, oh, if the crowd only knew, you're tricking them. You're tricking the crowd. And if they knew, they'd be so mad. It's like, no.
But would they?
Actually, they wouldn't.
They're coming to see a cover band. They're not actually going to see Bruno Mars sing Uptown Funk.
But guess what? If you're in the 300 balcony section of a Bruno Mars concert that you spent $500 for, plus hotels, plus stuff, and you found out that he canceled the day of because his voice was out, what if he just sang lip sync the pre-recorded stuff? Would you be mad? I would.
You know the other way that is solved in the concert industry is prednisone.
Right.
No, that's it. Like that. Yeah. I have a doctor friend who is often called by the Boston Opera on the day of a show to be like, you got to prescribe prednisone. You got to do this. Yep. And
I guess I'm just to the point of my life where, like, if I'm gonna go see my favorite band, like, I want them to sound good. I've been to shows where I'm like, yeah, good job, like fighting through it, but that wasn't very good.
If you don't want to put prednisone in your body, I have found that Advil, we're talking about anti-inflammatories. It's just bringing down the inflammation of the throat. We're not addressing the cause of the inflammation. Yes. We're temporarily mitigating it. Prednisone will do that. Advil usually does that. So
I will tell you in the next episode, I explain to you how we did it.
I want to know
how the wool was pulled over everybody's eyes, how the crowd had zero clue whatsoever that this had happened, how we prepared for it, and how we're ready to do it again, like willingly and happily if we ever have to. So there's your teaser, man.
That's it. Mike, thank you. What a blast. I love this. I love this. Tell people where they can find you. Make sure they know about your Confused Breakfast too.
For sure. Pork Tornadoes, all the social medias. Check us out. My DM's always open in case you guys have questions about stuff. Happy to help all the time. Confused Breakfast is a podcast I have. We talk classic movies, 80s, 90s, 2000s. We just dropped My Cousin Vinny. That's a good one. Fight Club. We're finally doing Fight Club. That is around the corner.
You're allowed to talk about Fight Club? I didn't know.
We are actually, the statute of limitations has ended. We're allowed to talk about Fight Club.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man.
As always, my friend. Yeah, of course. Mike, would you do the honors?
Yeah, I think there's something that you're supposed to do. I think it's always be performing.
That'll work.
At all times of your life.
At all times. Yes. Always be performing.
Even when
sleeping.
You're sleeping.
That's right. Correct. Later.